Welcome back to this NewsMakers Extra. This is the first in a two-part series on the future of the Arts Centre. Ken Franklin, the director of the Arts Centre, will be joining us next week. We are with Richard Sinke and Elric Hooper, just to touch on another concern that's cropped up, and I'm keen to get your thoughts on this. The idea that music students will be having to split their time between the Arts Centre and Ireland, because obviously a lot of them don't just study music. Is that really a major inconvenience?
I think it is a major inconvenience for two very good reasons. One is that very few students just study music. I did a straw poll in my class the other day, and alarmingly, there's a lot of biology students amongst that. I can't get a connection but a lot of them are studying biology, but which means that they're going to have to move from the university at Ireland to the centre of the city if this comes up. But there's a whole lot of other concerns about that splitting. They've been aware that this building is not big enough for their purposes from the beginning. When it first came out, I was part of a group that toured the site, and we all saw how small it was, but most of the time was taken up with wandering around the Arts Centre to see where the overflow would go. And I thought, oh my God, this is Monty Python. Here's a group of academics wandering about, trying to do repairs on a building that hasn't been built yet. Well, when I asked Carl about this, he said to me, oh no, we've abandoned the overflow idea. We're now going to split the school in half and teach at stage one at Ilam and the rest of the stuff in the centre of the city. Right. And I thought, could this be more torturous?
Obviously, there's been a lot of concerns about heritage with respect to this proposal. If this project was such an outrage to heritage values, why has the Historic Places Trust given it the green light?
Well, from my understanding of it, and which is not, you know, totally full understanding, is that the Historic Places Trust has a statutory manager. So he's sort of appointed by a government-type organisation, and there's also the local branch of the Historic Places Trust, which is just the volunteers and the people who are interested in historic buildings. Now, from my understanding is that the general manager or the CEO of the Historic Places Trust in Christchurch has written a letter in support, in principle only though, notice, in principle. So he wrote that, but the actual board behind it is not so in favour.
Okay. Speaking of who's in favour and who's against, who is winning the hearts and minds over this battle?
Well, you know the submission numbers that the council received on the funding only. It gets quite confusing for a lot of people, I think, too, because there's three processes going on here. There's the resource consent, there's the consultation on funding, and now the Arts Centre applied for a subdivision consent. Yes. So all these things will be confusing people about what's actually going on, and they're all quite specific processes that need to be gone through. But we can only go by the two. There's the Chamber of Commerce poll, I believe is 74% against.
And the Chamber are tacitly in favour, aren't they?
That's correct, yep. Yes. And then there's the submissions, of which they've received about 504 submissions on the funding issue, 474 against.
I think the university claims that their independent research indicates over 60% of people are open to the proposal. I'm not quite sure how one justifies the definition of open. It doesn't sound like a ringing endorsement. But are you too closed to it, Elric?
No, I'm open. No, I think open means that if you can show me the evidence, then I would approve of it. I think they're open-minded about it. But so far, I don't think the evidence actually shows the necessity of this building, and I think it's a great loss of an opportunity for all the reasons, the heritage reasons, the space there, the idea of renewing the city by... Can 100 students renew a huge area of the city? I think not.
You know the city extremely well. And I'm keen to get your reaction to a comment that Richard McGowan from Warren and Marnie has made on a number of occasions now. And there was another letter in the paper, not that Richard actually titled who he was in the process, but that's beside the point, who derides the ill-informed naysayers of Christchurch, who try and kill too many initiatives. Does he have a point? Are we too negative?
No, I think we love our city, and as I always say, it's the Verona of the South Seas. Just ring a bell and the Capulets and Montagues come out. And, you know, we love a good stoush, but I think there's more to it than that. His letter said that the heritage buildings would not be threatened, but if they build the car park where it is, they're going to have to go under the building where the Court Theatre is and shore it up. I think that's, you know, obvious. They're not being totally frank about certain things about this.
And just to add additional comment to that too, Elric, naysayers may be, however, just go and stand in the square, Mike, and cast your eyes around the square and see how much heritage you can see that's left of our Christchurch Square compared to what it was some number of years ago. Pretty much that whole northwestern area of the square is now a hodgepodge of very unpleasant looking modern type buildings. The heritage has been destroyed in the square. Why destroy it in the Arts Centre as well?
I want to have a look at the role of the Arts Centre Trust Board after the break, but just before we go to the break, what about the City Council's role and behaviour to date? For example, you've made submissions in front of them in recent weeks. Do you think they are giving you a fair hearing?
I think some of the council is giving us a fair hearing, yes. I think there are others who have already made up their minds. In fact, certain councils have been quoted as saying it's all sewn up, it's a done deal.
Do you think it is?
No, not at all. No, I think there's a real groundswell, you were mentioned before, building against this. In fact, I was just walking down the road and there was a City Council workman in his orange jacket there doing some work on the road, and he looked at me and he did a double take and obviously recognised me from something he'd seen in the paper, and he gives me this big thumbs up saying, yeah, you keep working at it, go on. And I was in a taxi drive with a taxi yesterday, the other couple of days ago, and the woman wanted to give me a free taxi ride. She was so thought, good on you, Richard, get in there, and I know who you are, and there's a real, like, this is just people I don't know who are just commenting to me, and I know that my staff, when they're out and about around town, are getting the same sort of feedback.
In the minds of most city councillors, do you think they think it's a done deal?
I think they do, actually. I think they do think it's a done deal. And to me, the greatest concern of this is the lack of democratic and open process about it. We were not informed that this was taking place at a time where intelligent analysis and comment could be made. It's being rushed through. The council is using that old trick of saying it's commercially sensitive, not to reveal how much this thing is going to cost, and there are figures between 12 million and 35 million about at the moment. There's a whole set of things, like by what right has the board of the Arts Centre to change the name of the Great Hall to College Hall, for instance, and that's in process. It would seem to be a signal of a fait accompli.
All right, we'll come back to this issue in just a moment. Do stay with us.